Good morning. Good morning. Sounds like we're live. I know you all have smartphones. I know you all use your phones. Does anyone here watch TV? Come on, raise your hands. Someone's got to watch TV. Okay, great. So you can help me here. In India, we're seeing about 12% of total viewing on smart TVs. Do you think that the smart TV consumption as a percentage of total viewing in Korea is higher or lower? Raise your hand if you think it's higher. Raise your hand if you think it's lower. Okay, anyone who didn't raise their hand, you have to be more confident. It's actually lower. The two of the three leading smart TV makers, that's their home market. Smart TV viewing is lower in that market than in India. Now, we can use your phone expertise. Do you think phone viewing is higher or lower in Korea than India? If you think it's higher, raise your hand. If you think it's lower, raise your hand. Okay, in this case, it's actually higher. So we're seeing that different devices generate different engagement in different regions. So we're going to explore both of those themes, starting with different devices, different screens. So we're going to concentrate on 4 different types of screens. TV, which could be a game console or a connected box or a smart TV, computer, phones, and tablets. Let's start with when people join our service. They sign up for the service. So I'm going to go across and see which you think generates the most signups for our service. Raise your hand if you think TV screen. No one thinks TV's, one brave soul. Computer. Okay. Phone. Good, we're at Mobile World Congress, got some phone fans. And tablets. Okay. It's actually computer, so the hands were not far off. Just under half of signups for the service are on the computer. And here's how the rest of the numbers look. And this is globally at the end of last year before we expanded into the larger footprint we have in the market now. But this is just signups. What about when people actually start viewing content? Do we see that they stay on the device that they signed up on? So let's go across again. Where do you think the most viewing happens in the first month of someone being a member? TV screen? Oops, I already gave the answer away. Damn. Okay, it's the TV screen. So one point for every one of you who were thinking that. So TV is actually not the greatest place for signups, but it is the place that generates the most viewing. And again, we go across, and we saw quite a few signups on computer and phone before. Now we see viewing dropping. So let's look at this in a different way. Signups, this is the same numbers I shared before. Computer is the most popular sign-up device. Flowing over into the member's primary device after 1 month of viewing. And you can see where people flow to. You can see that they sign up on the computer, but they flow over to the TV. They sign up on the phone, they flow over to the TV. Not all of them, but a lot of them. Tablet viewers, they hold on. They gain some viewers from the other platforms, they lose a few. But that's what it looks like after 1 month. If we look at this same cohort 6 months in, we see things have continued to shift. And 6 months in, TV's actually gained even more. And phone and tablet are now below 7%. So the device type really matters. And by the time we've gotten past the sign-up stage into a half year of a member's membership with us, we see that viewing patterns have really shifted to a different class of devices. Now, does this mean that the phone is not important? Does this mean that the phone isn't an important part of our ecosystem or of a member's engagement with us? We can see that the phone has slowly become more and more important as part of our members' engagement with us. Even though the viewing is relatively small, the growth in the number of members using the phone in any given month has actually been skyrocketing. And it's over half of members in any given month that actually use a phone to view content on the service. So it's a small percentage of overall viewing, but it's a really popular device as a touch point for the service, which says that people use phones because it's important, but they use phones in a different way. One thing we looked at to try and understand how people use phones is we looked at usage over the time of day. And what we saw when we went to the Netherlands, was we looked at phone viewing, which peaked around 11 or 12 at night, versus viewing on other devices, which peaked 2 hours earlier. People are taking their phones to bed with them. People are watching content in their bed after they've left the living room, after they've left their computer. They're actually watching later. So one way the phone is important is time of day, where you are, what you're doing. The phone helps fill a gap where you don't have the TV on because you don't want to watch TV in bed or someone else is there with you. So that's one thing we saw. We see that shift in other markets as well. Netherlands was particularly pronounced, but we see that shift in other markets as well. Different markets are a little bit different. Another thing we saw, when we looked at France, and we looked at phones on Wi-Fi versus phones on cellular networks, we see this peak in cellular network usage around lunchtime. So people must be stepping out of the office, grabbing a baguette, grabbing a drink, and watching something to fill their lunch hour. When we look at Korea, we see bumps in cellular network usage in the morning and in the late afternoon or evening. People probably commuting on trains, people watching video while they're going to and from work. So we see these interesting patterns where the way the phone fits into someone's lifestyle for watching video is different than the way other devices fit in, but it's important. It doesn't generate as many hours, but it's quite important. Now, some of the examples I've given you have been specific to specific countries. So let's step away from looking just at different kinds of devices and look at regional variations in how people engage with those devices. So phone viewing varies by region of the world. And I've circled India, Korea, and Japan, where viewing on phones is actually quite high relative to other countries in the world. Whereas on TV screen, we see that TV is disproportionately quite high in the Americas, especially North America. Australia does really well. Russia, remember this, I'm hoping on the next slide, if the next slide is the slide I think it is, we'll see a contrast in Russia between viewing and sign-up. So Russia, not so high. Meanwhile, tablets, we're seeing Southeast Asia, Indonesia, and Cambodia and Laos apparently really love tablets. And then computer, it's an odd colored circle, we actually see lower usage of computer in West Europe than in East Europe. So these regional variations are really interesting. The world is quite diverse in terms of how it engages with a service like ours and the way it engages with devices. Yes, this is the slide we expected. So here we have signups. With signups, we're seeing in Korea and Japan where we know that there's a lot of viewing on the phone. We also see a lot of signups on the phone. Latvia stands out for some reason. Remember I mentioned Russia was relatively low on consumption on TV. Well, it's quite high. It's quite high on signups on TV. And actually, I think this is mostly driven by game consoles, where for some interesting reason we don't understand yet, game consoles are a very popular place to sign up. Also, France. France stands out as a country where the TV platform is really important for sign-up, driven in part by our partnerships there on pay TV set-top boxes with Orange and Bouygues Telecom and a couple of others. Tablet over-indexes a little bit in the Nordics and in UK and Ireland. And then the computer's pretty popular worldwide. As we already noticed much earlier, computers are a really popular sign-up platform. And indeed, we see that for most of the world, there's not much variation. Computers pretty popular around the world. What kind of devices do people like to watch kids' content on? What kind of devices is the kids' device? So between phones and tablets, tablet's the winner. Phone is not the kids' device. I mean, there's certainly some viewing on phone, but tablet is the kids' device, as far as we can tell in our experience. And that seems to be pretty much around the world, tablets where kids like to watch content. TV is also quite high, but not a big contrast to the general viewing on TV being high. But for these devices, it's tablet that wins. Okay, let's move on to quality of experience. We seem to be missing our... Okay, so imagine on the vertical here is bit rate, the amount of data we're sending to the device, which is a good indicator of the video quality. And across the missing axis is interruptions or rebuffering or the things that interrupt your experience because of network latency and the network just disappearing for a little bit. And we're going to look at how different regions of the world index against video quality and against interruptions. And so you get a great experience in the countries I listed there, in Japan and Korea, Hong Kong, Singapore, where you have very low interruptions and very high video quality. The Nordics, Western Europe, almost as good. Central and Eastern Europe, almost as good. North America, almost as good. And then we start to move down this curve. Middle East is okay. Latin America, it's okay. Pretty diverse range of experiences in Latin America. Southeast Asia, very wide range. And then India and Pakistan down there as well. And so there's this curve. Where we see the countries of the world distributed in terms of overall quality of experience. Now, this is on all devices, all networks. This is the aggregated data for the entire world, all devices. And if we shift to looking just at phone, we see things slide down and to the right. Slide down and to the right. Now, part of coming down is that the screens are smaller. Right? Phone screens are smaller, and so we don't need to send as much data, and so we would expect some drop. But the slide to the right indicates something about the quality of the networks that are delivering to the phone device. And I've combined Wi-Fi and cellular here, but a good fraction of this is cellular. And it's important to think about as cellular networks want to increasingly compete with fixed-line networks for the full range of use cases that consumers want to engage in, including video. That slide to the right is a competitive disadvantage, right? That slide to the right says that consumers are not going to get the same quality of experience on phones and on cell networks as they get on fixed line. And so we would hope to see this slide back up and to the left over time as cellular networks get better and better. I'd also point out that doing things like capping the amount of data that you can get, throttling bandwidth over cell networks is not the way to go up and to the left, but that's a way to stay down and to the right. And so there's a tension between the desire to compete effectively with fixed line versus desire to monetize or desire to manage overall capacity in the network. And so how that tension plays out over time will be interesting to watch. Phone viewing on cellular versus on Wi-Fi. So we see it's actually pretty healthy in the US. We see about a third of phone traffic going over cellular networks. And we see in Finland, it's almost 2/3. So there are a few markets where we see pretty healthy use of cellular networks for mobile video. Regional variation, and this is going to change quite a bit over time, I'm sure. And the last thing I want to throw in terms of world maps at you is Android versus iPhone. Now, I don't know how this compares to market share data or other use cases, but for viewing video on Netflix, we see that Android is king in Central and South America. Middle East, they're iPhone fans when it comes to mobile video. Japan, definitely, they love watching video on iPhones as well, and you can see the rest of the world for yourself. Okay, I want to change topics entirely now. Entire change of topic. Mark mentioned it earlier in his presentation. He had cord cutting up on the screen. I think everyone here has read probably hundreds of articles or headlines about cord cutting. Is this like the big disruption? This is the way we see the world. We see a world of partnerships, not of undermining the operators. So these are our partners. These are partners around the world that we're working with to deliver our service to our mutual customers. I think cord cutting is great rhetoric to sell ads and generate readership. And there's a story in there about overall long-term changes in the industry, but it's not the disaster story that I think it's made out to be. And the evidence is just how effective these partnerships are for us and for our partners. So I'm going to talk about that a little bit. TELUS in Canada sees that there's not cannibalization when we're part of their service on their on-demand. There's actually a boost in the use of their on-demand offering when we're part of their service, when we're on their set-top box. This is about how consumers are, as a group, moving to on-demand as a collection of services. And the more they learn about on-demand, the more they want to engage in other on-demand services. And this is a really good data point around that. Proximus in Belgium. Proximus is seeing that customers want to move up to higher data plans because they want to consume video over the network on their set-top box. 3 in Denmark is seeing that by offering Netflix as, or by giving away or giving a gift of Netflix to subscribers that sign up for their service, that they're able to attract more and more people. So they're seeing this as a way to boost their overall subscription levels. Vodafone and SoftBank, 2 very large, very wonderful mobile operators, are using us aggressively in their marketing to tell the story of how mobile video is a great part of being part of their service. This is a tool that they find very powerful to attract new subscribers or existing subscribers to up-level their plans or whatever. 2 big pay TV companies, Virgin Media in the UK, cable service, and Dish, a satellite service in the US. Again, very aggressively using Netflix as a way to pull in new subscribers who are interested in on-demand video, but want that integrated into the same experience they use to watch the other video that they're interested in consuming. And so both of these partners have been very aggressively using us with very good results in their promotions. Here's a number of others. BT in UK, Bouygues in France, Optus down in Australia, and we've already talked about Proximus. So there's this range of examples where you're seeing mobile operators, pay TV service operators, ISPs, leverage the partnership they have with Netflix to tell a story to consumers about how mobile video can be a great part of their existing service, either mobile or pay TV or ISP. And then finally, a couple of our partners have actually put a Netflix button on the remote control for their pay TV service. So with Total Play in Mexico or with Vodafone in Ireland, when you get their service, you get the remote control, it has a Netflix button on it, which is a sign to the consumer that there's a great on-demand offering that's part of the pay TV service that they've gotten. And it's a sign to us of the value that the operators place on having us integrated into their offering, because that makes it very attractive to consumers. So it just keeps getting better. We want to keep making it better. We work really hard to make the experience of Netflix on mobile devices better through testing. We are investing heavily in the UI development. We're investing heavily underneath to make the streaming more and more reliable. We're very focused on improving video quality. We're working with a number of large companies that care a lot about video to create the codecs of the future so that we can deliver better quality with less bits over more networks. And then we've just now started to learn about what it means to deliver mobile video globally, about what it means to engage with consumers in every country, on every device, but especially on mobile, which I think we know the least about. We're just now scratching the surface. And so we're really excited to be embarking on this journey to learn what it means to deliver video globally and to see that grow over time.